Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, The Change Agent, sponsored by Beyond the Glare and Kalina Vision Professional Services, where we dive into real-world challenges and strategies of leadership, team management, leading remote teams, project management, and being an empathetic leader and more. Whether you're leading a new team or trying to energize an existing one, we've got some good insights, tips, and stories to help you succeed as a leader and inject value fast into your organization. So let's get started. Welcome back and welcome to episode 2. I'm Eric, and today we're going to be talking about a complex subject that many leaders have to get good at, and that is emotional intelligence, also known as EQ. Have you ever worked with a leader who just got their team? This person just walked into a room, diffused any tension, inspired other people? Well, that's emotional intelligence in action. And the good news is it's something that you can develop, but it takes quite a bit of work. So let's begin with answering the question, what is emotional intelligence? Well, psychologist Daniel Goleman breaks it down into about 5 different components. First, self-awareness. This is where you recognize and understand your emotions. Number 2, self-regulation. This is where you manage your emotions, especially when you have pressure. The third one is motivation. This is the internal drive to do something just beyond a paycheck. The fourth one is empathy, and this is understanding and considering other people's emotions. This is a big one for me. And 5, social skills. This is navigating relationships and communicating effectively amongst your peers and other people. But I'm going to add a 6th one. I'm calling it emotional intuition. This is my, and maybe a strange way of saying, I know how to pick up cues from other people and what they're doing and how they're doing in an emotional way. This is certainly heavily focused on reading nonverbal communication in people, but it's a key component, in my opinion, of emotional intelligence. So it goes without saying, and I'm going to say it, when leaders develop these skills, they do create stronger, more cohesive teams. So why does emotional intelligence matter in leadership? Well, it's critical because studies show that leaders with high emotional intelligence, or EQ, have teams that are more engaged. They're more productive, and they're much less likely to experience burnout. Here's an example. Imagine a product or a project is falling behind, and a leader without emotional intelligence reacts with frustration and blame. But an emotionally intelligent leader, take a step back and assess how that team is feeling, finding a way to motivate them without adding the stress. Check out this quote. Press the blame, you're being the boss. Search for solutions, become a servant leader. There's a huge difference in these two people. So it's apparent that there are many good benefits to practicing EQ leadership. Some of the key benefits of having or practicing high EQ leadership are fewer conflicts and better and faster problem solving, having a higher team trust and morale, and more effective communication and collaboration. So let's chat about developing the emotional intelligence, or EQ, and integrating it into your life, into your leadership style. So good news is that EQ isn't something you're born with. It's something that you can actively improve and practice. And there are several ways you could start. I would say probably 3 of them. Looking at 3 of these, we would say practice active listening. So instead of formulating your response while someone is speaking, really focus on what they're saying. Take that time to genuinely listen to what people are telling you. Then ask for some feedback. Emotional intelligence requires self-awareness. This is where you get the input from your peers or mentors on how you're going to handle stress or conflict. And then regulate before you react. That's the 3rd one. When faced with a stressful situation, take a moment before responding. Take that pause. This small pause can prevent an emotional reaction and allow for more thoughtful approaches. So looking at it in action, let's take a real-world example. One of the best leaders that I've worked with had an incredibly high ability to read the room. During a difficult and really completely unexpected incident, instead of panicking or micromanaging, they assessed the immediate conversational temperature of what was going on around them. They paused, but remember that pause part? They used silence to cool the air. They pulled the team to get the team together and engaged them with sincere questions and they also acknowledged the stress and frustration in the room, and they asked, how can I support you right now? The simple act turned tension into teamwork. It turned off the blame burner and turned on the leadership burner. The team worked to derive solutions. They spotlighted value for each person and what they were doing, and they resolved the conflict. Now, I want to tell you right up front, now, this is not something that's going to be perfect every single time you implement the EQ mindset. Just because you implement these steps does not necessarily mean it's going to work. There's something else that goes with this. What makes the success of implementation much harder and more predictable is inconsistency in demonstrating it. In our last podcast, I harped on that you should do what you say and say what you mean and be consistent straight from the get-go, right off the bat. Don't do this sometimes. It's something you do all the time. By not demonstrating EQ from the beginning of your leadership journey, and when you first get a team, you run the risk of a team member that believing that, oh, they're saying that just to calm me down or just to get me to do something. They don't really actually believe that in what they're saying. There are many examples of leading with emotional intelligence in a correct and positive way. But there are a couple of my favorite quotes relating to this come from General James Mattis. He said, ambition is good if your ambition is to be a servant leader. If the ambition is to get a bigger tent when you're a colonel, then that's not ambition. You must be rooted in being a servant leader. He also said, and this is a really good one, listen, learn, help, and then lead. That's how you build trust. You listen, you learn what the team member is truly trying to say, you help them with real solutions and practices, and then you lead. That last part, leading, is almost, if you think about it, the automatic output of doing the first ones correctly and sincerely. So, wrapping up this short podcast on EQ, it isn't a nice to have; it's a must have. You've got to have it for effective leadership. So, by developing your self-awareness, your empathy, and improving your communication skills to make them stronger, you can certainly lead your team and bring out the best without hardly any effort. So that's about it for today's quick chat. If you enjoyed the episode and you found it useful, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and tune in for the next episode where we will continue to dive into the things that matter for you as a leader and a manager. Thanks for listening, and remember, be the change agent that your team and organization needs.